Testing, testing, testing. JB here, December 19th, 2023. Hope everyone's doing outstanding. A couple more days left this week. Then we have another week, and that's it, 2024. And it's a holiday shortened week. Markets are closed on Monday. Should be fun. Put on a watch list this morning. Not much in the way of data this week. We just have PCE data on Friday. We still have some earnings, Nike. I'm trying to think who's after the close. There's not a lot of names reporting, so tough to figure. I can't remember the last time the SPY, but the S&P has been above its upper Bollinger Band, or at least closed above it for 4 straight sessions. That's what's happened so far, and here we are at 474 on the SPY. The upper Bollinger Band's 471 and change. It's probably a little higher now with the market melting up. So I don't know. We have Friday's the official start, or the unofficial start of the Santa rally season, the last 5 trading sessions of the year, and then the first 3 trading sessions of the new year. Considering where we've come from, I mean, just November we were at 4. I think we hit 408 on the SPY, and here we are at 474 a month and a half later. Pretty remarkable rally, but if there's no sellers left, people are repositioning. Maybe got 480 on the SPY before the year is out. But a couple names I want to, or at least give some updates on. First is Chewy. So got the calls last week in anticipation of their inaugural investor day. So they haven't had an investor day. It's a recently IPO company, or a couple years old, and I figured, and the stock came off its earnings, kind of somewhat disappointing, but it reversed lows off its earnings, and I thought maybe that was kind of a reset of expectations, and then would rally into its investor day. It did a little bit of that, came all the way down to $18, I think, last Thursday, or maybe it was last Wednesday, then closed at 20 and change, and then it's been doing pretty well. And then there's a director who's doing some insider purchases, did some a couple days ago, did another one yesterday at 20 and change. So that bodes well. And then this morning you also had Jefferies coming out with a positive analyst note, initiating coverage on Chewy with I think it's a buy rating, $27 price target. I just think this continues to head higher. So lucky enough to get out my 25 strikes for some nice profits. I think the last batch was over 400%. Then went and added some 20. I was actually looking at February's, but I think it's going to go short term and long term. So I'd rather just try and do some inexpensive ones so I don't lose as much premium if it does have some kind of pullback. So I went and added some of those 27.50 strikes, and I think it heads over $25 in the next week or two. So I'll continue to hold those, but it seems like it's found its mojo, and it's going to continue to move up after the expectations have been reset with the earnings. You had the positive analyst commentary. I think someone else came out. Wedbush came out on the 15th, raised our price target to 25 from 23. And there's been a bunch of other positive commentary around the stock. So like that one for higher. I'll continue to just hold my 27.50s, even if it dips a little bit. I mean, when it dropped down, after I added my calls into the investor day, when it dropped all the way down into the 18s, my calls were not looking too good. And then sure enough, it comes back to life. So I'm hoping it sets up again here where we get to 25 or so before the week's out. If not, I'll probably continue to hold those calls for higher. So that's Chewy. Also, I'll talk about Clear Secure. U is the ticker. I had some December strikes. They expired, so I just wanted to have some exposure because I think this heads higher. One of the better growth stories out there. It is divisive. I've talked about this name quite some time because there are a lot of people who are short the name. If you take a look at the short interest, it's still 20%. No, it's only 13%. But, there's people who think there's no moat around the business. There's been some negative publications. I think it's Bloomberg who's published some hit pieces on it. But it's to me, it's the future of security, especially for larger, for events, for travel. And it continues to grow their addressable market by doing partnerships. I think they just had a partnership announcement this morning with New York State Health. Let's see. That was yesterday. Or no, that was last week. But they continue to have these partnerships with these companies to grow their market outside what their bread and butter is, which is which is airport security, right? Skip the lines at TSA. Well, not TSA, but to be able to get in and not have to worry about if there's huge lines. You can get in and get through security pretty quick using Clear. Great fundamental story. So if you take a look at what their let's see, I'm just trying to scroll back here. Sorry. If you take a look at their business, it's growing nearly 40% top line. So every year over year, it's growing I think it's like 38%. They have $773 million in cash on hand. They are doing an active stock buyback program. I think they've already retired over 2 million shares. And then they also are issuing a dividend because they're in such a strong financial position. So I mean, it's a high margin business. So that return of shareholder value, return of capital to the shareholders via dividends and stock buybacks, that's going to continue to happen. And then if the growth remains on the same trajectory, I think it deserves to trade back over to the 30s at least. Another catch-up play. So it's down. I think it opened 2023. Let's see if I have my chart here. At $26. Let's see if I have it. So December, it closed December 20, open, high, low. Closed at 26.27. So even if it just gets to flat before the year is out in the next 7 trading sessions, that's $4 from here. I mean, that's very optimistic, but I do think it heads higher in the coming days. I was actually looking at calls at the open. It ran up to 23.37 and then just faded. So I took advantage of that dip, $1.20 dip or so, and I think it heads much higher. So that's why I added those strikes. I'll probably continue to look for opportunities to play Clear Secure. I think it's a great story. It's one of those names that not much coverage. I think it's misunderstood. People look at it and it kind of baffles them that they're like, wow, all this company does security. I mean, the TSA does this security. It's not a business it's not a need to have business, right? And people always talk about things. One of those having a moat around your business. I mean, the TSA already does what Clear Secure does, but they do it better. Clear does it better and is able to offer a premium value proposition for folks. And I think that speaks volumes, at least for their business, for staying power, and then the fact that they're able to branch out. I've talked about this before. The NFL has a stake in the company. They already have deals with some of the NFL teams for security at their stadiums. You have concerts, all these events that probably in the future are going to need, better security. I mean, that's definitely the future, is making sure events are secure, especially with some of the things that have happened over the years at some of these events. So that's where I think there's a huge opportunity for them. So that's clear. Not going to talk too much about them. SSYS back over $13, hit $13.50 right at the open. Hang on a second, folks. Not much to add on SSYS. At some point, I'll look to close the last of my January 19s. I put it on the watch list this morning, and then go and just hold the March strikes. I think it heads over $15 in the coming weeks. March, plenty of time for it to head over 15 into January. Trip. So, it's one of those names that I've liked over the years. Finally, over $20, all the way up to $21.50 this morning. Sold off a little bit to $21. Here it is at $21.30. I want to be able to take advantage if it continues to head higher. I think it heads 25 plus in the coming weeks. But I took more of my January 19 strikes off, and then I went and added some 22.50s. At some point, I looked to lock the last of the 19s out and just hold those 22.50s. Another divisive name. People look at TripAdvisor and don't think there's anything special about the company. Me, I look at it as the most trafficked travel website on the planet, and they're just in the cusps of a turnaround. And I think once it's already started to bear fruit on their last earnings report. Another quarter of a strong earnings, and I think it heads 20s, 25, 30, if not higher. And then you take a look at some of these names in the sector. Expedia, Booking.com, all have been on a tear. Trip has kind of been, I wouldn't say underperforming, it just hasn't regained a lot of where it's traded at over the last year and a half. And let's see where Trip was at the start of the year. Trip was right around here, $18. And then it went all the way up to 26. So I'm not saying it gets to $26, but I think great opportunity there. Not going to add anything more, but that's why I added those calls. And then Zillow. I mean, what else to say about Zillow? I had the 50 strikes. I locked those in for, I don't know, a couple 100%. Went and got the 60s as more of a want to be able to take the risk off on the 50s, lock in profits, but also be able to take advantage if the stock continued to melt higher. And sure enough, 58.78 here in the morning. Lock some more in for almost 2,000%, and then I just have a couple left. I would love to, and I put on a watch list this morning, I would love to add more Z calls, but it's up so much. I think it's 15. Today will be 16 of the past 18 sessions. It's closed in the green. It seems almost too obvious, right? When a trade's too obvious, probably it's probably time to at least pull the lever and cash out, or cash out some or all until it consolidates a little bit. But I mean, the housing market, you have to think it's, the market's is one of the best pricing mechanisms on the planet. You have to think they're pricing in strong, sales in or at least traffic in January and February for some of these, real estate companies. And real estate's kind of seasonal, so typically the winter is not you don't see the most home sales in the winter. You see it in the spring and the summer. So, but I think it bodes well. Rates start to come down. All this pent up demand's going to come out, and then the people who, I would say there's pent up sellers too, people who are looking to sell that have mortgages, and they're not going to go out and pay the same price, or pay more for a house that's worth less money or things like that because of the rates if they have a mortgage. So I think that's kind of easy to easy to see, and I mean the stock's done well. So just have a couple left. I'll just hold on to those. They're in January. I think it trades over $60, but maybe if it gets 57, 56.50 in the coming days, I'll look to close the rest of those out and revisit. And then last is Biogen, and added those strikes on Friday. More of a, it's a chart play, a catch-up play. Biogen this morning had a ruling. I think the European Commission already ruled that their generic version of Sofedra, however you pronounce it, their MS drug has exclusivity through 2025. So in the U.S. they lost a ruling for that, and then I think it went all the way up to Supreme Court and they lost it, and that was a couple of years ago. And in the EU at some point it's going to roll off, and I think back in 2020, however you pronounce it, did over $3 billion in revenues for Biogen. Now it does like $1 billion. So the fact that they're able to hold on to that exclusivity into 2025 in the EU, I think that at least should help a little bit. I thought the stock would be up higher, sitting here at 252, but even without that news, I think it heads to 260 before the week is out. So I'll continue. The strikes are up just a little bit. Let's see, they were at 60 by 80 before. I didn't even take a look. 50 by 75. So I could sell them at the bid. Not that I would sell them at the bid, but I'll hold on to those. I think it heads higher as the week progresses, and I think that's it. I'm not really going to talk about too much. Weight Watchers, all the way up to 842 here, and then ironically enough, back under its 200-day moving average. It feels like that's its kryptonite right now. Until it breaks that, closes well above that, I think it's going to be a struggle. I still don't get it, and you see me, if you follow on X or FinTwit, you can see me post about Weight Watchers. You have all these solutions that they're pretty much going to be the drug dealer of choice for all these weight loss solutions. Not only that, they're going to have programs for support. So when you take these weight loss drugs, it's not like you're just you're pricking yourself and then that's it. No, they'll have the back end support to help you on your journey. So I'm still surprised it's down here, but so we'll see what happens. I'm not going to add any more. I added some when it broke the 200-day moving average, and sure enough, it fell. So I'll just hold what I have there. I think that's it, folks. Oh, TripAdvisor. Did I already talk about TripAdvisor? I mean, TripAdvisor falls right into the move in Expedia. And wait, am I having? Did I already talk about TripAdvisor? I talked about you, Chewy. Yeah, I just did. Holy, I'm sorry. I'm losing my marbles here. Right here, 2135, looking good. And then last, I'll talk quickly about Trupanion. I keep doing some due diligence, and I posted on X earlier today. One of the analysts came on the earnings call for their last quarter and actually asked the CEO why there's a lack of stock buybacks by insiders. Like, I think that's the most loaded, like, crazy question I've ever heard an analyst. Well, I shouldn't exaggerate it to that point, but why would an analyst ask that question? It's a different story if the analyst said, when is the company going to buy back their shares, right? Why haven't you bought back your shares or used any excess cash flow, whatever? But to ask why insiders, who you would think that the analyst doesn't know the financial positions of every insider on the Trupanion board, why are they not buying shares? Why is there a lack of stock buybacks? It's kind of like a mind-boggling question to me. So you're going to imply that everybody who's on the Trupanion board wants to buy, should be buying their stock, but because they aren't, that means they have no confidence in the company, right? I don't get, I don't get that, and this is why when I look at insider sells, I don't really pay much attention to insider sells, right? But insider buys I do, because then it does instill confidence if the CEO or someone does buy stock. But to imply that because they're not buying it, that there's no confidence in the company, to me just leads me to believe that the short thesis on Trupanion, it's folks are feeding these little bites to analysts and all these other folks. And that's a loaded question. So I found that kind of comical. And not only that, the CEO of Trupanion had a 10.5B1 plan. So he had planned sales. So with that, there's a lot of, the reason you do that plan is so there's no conflict of interest. You don't have insider information. There's no way you can get brought up on insider trading charges. But once that sale goes through and he ended his plan, I think he ended his plan a couple of weeks ago, you can't go out and just start buying shares again, right? He just had a plan. So it would almost imply that he has insider information. Oh, my plan ends, let me buy stock. So why would he put himself in a position of scrutiny just to appease an analyst who is concerned that there's not enough insider buys on Trupanion? It just leaves me more question marks in regards to the legitimacy of that question. Like, what analyst? So part of your analyst estimate on the stock is insider buys, right? Like your fundamental analysis of the company, you're going to take 50 cents off your price target because there's no insider buys. You're going to lower your rating. I just didn't realize, it just doesn't jive to me how that is a question an analyst should be asking the company, right? on a earnings call that's going to be transcript that's going to be available for everybody to listen to and read. It's almost like they did that on purpose. And I scroll back on some Trupanion posts on FinTwit, and there's some bears that bring that person asked the question, and of course they don't mention the response from the CEO who says, well, actually he's the president. I forget what his role is now, but they don't mention that he responded saying he can't buy shares. Number one, he can't buy shares because as per the SEC or whatever, as per legality situation, he can't buy shares after his plan just ended. There's got to be a cooling period, right? So that's Trupanion. Hopefully it starts heading back up to 34, 35. I was trying to think of some of the other things but I've been doing a lot of digging and reading through all the transcripts on Trupanion, because there's one half of me that's like, wow, this 42% short interest. Hey, maybe they're right. But everything I read, it's like, I talked about it yesterday. They had the reason they missed margins is because of the inflation situation, and they can't raise premiums on their members. They can only do it once a year, and they can't do it without a 30-day notice. So if they already did it at the start of the year, and then inflation went up, let's even say at the start of 2023 or towards the end of 2022, and they already raised prices, they can't raise prices on folks. But then they did I think they have 900 and something pets that are insured. They have 900 and whatever members, and they raised the premiums at least 20% on 300,000 of them, and they were able to retain 90% of those folks. And you have folks on FinTwit saying, wow, there's churn, record churn, they're losing people, but they're at historic levels with retention. I think they have a 98.6% retention rate, and the average member stays 72 months, something like that. So you're talking nearly 6 years these folks are on, have it providing for their pet. So as much as I keep trying to figure out, I'm like, what is the bear case? You just type in, I forget where I go, and you go to Trupanion and type in like going bankrupt, and it's like, oh, there's a probability of 0.1% they're going bankrupt. compared to the insurance sector, it's I just don't get it. Maybe I'm missing something, but I don't think I am. So I'm not going to add anything on True just because it's so volatile. But at some point, I'll look to lock some more strikes in, and hopefully at much higher prices. That's it. 225 here on this fine December 19th afternoon, 2023. Hope everyone's having a great day. Let's rock and roll.